All right, we continue then with our focus on voter registration weekend. This weekend, as all the political parties are out campaigning as people register to vote, and in fact pursuing people to register to vote. Our reporter in Cape Town, Abra Barbier, is covering the DA in Grassy Park. We cross to her now for more. I do understand, Abra, that you are with DA leader John Steenhuisen this afternoon in what's being called the war room, I understand. Talk to us about what's happening where you are.
Flo, good afternoon. Yes, indeed, you are correct. We are at what is called a war room in Grassy Park in Cape Town. It's a little suburb just outside the city centre itself. But to tell us more about this war room, I'm going to speak to DA leader John Steenhuisen. John, before we go into the war room, just tell me how much actually goes into a campaign of this nature.
Well, there's a huge amount of work, and it starts long before the registration weekend itself. We've spent the last 3 months identifying people who are incorrectly registered or people who are not registered and making contact with them and developing a database. And it's those people that we're making contact with today. So it's a lot of work. It's doing door-to-door. It's doing telephone work. It's doing a lot of legwork to be able to get that database up and running so that on a day like today you can turn those people out.
So this war room, how many of these do you have? In which areas do you have them?
We've got one of these in every constituency around the country today. So every single constituency head, members of parliament or MPLs, will have been responsible for setting one of these up to be able to have people on standby doing shifts to call voters, to work our way through that database that we've cultivated over the course of the last few months, to be able to get as many of the people who indicated they would be willing to register out to make sure they have registered.
John, I would like you to speak to first-time voters, and I'm not only speaking about those who just turned 18. I mean, we know there are people who have never ever voted, and we also, I don't know if people understand what the importance of local government elections are. Can you just help us unpack why should people know exactly why they are going to the polls on election day for local government elections?
Well, local government elections are the most important elections because they really speak to the day-to-day bread and butter issues about how your community looks, what resources are given to your community, are your problems being addressed. It's also the only sphere of government where you can hold an individual directly accountable. So you vote for a councillor, a person, a ward councillor. And if that person's performed well, you obviously get an opportunity to reward them and make sure that they get re-elected. Or you have a role and responsibility as a voter, if they have not worked for you, to replace them. And so people mustn't take local government lightly. It really, out of all the spheres of government, it affects your day-to-day life the most. It affects simple things, whether there's potholes in your street, whether your verges are being cut, whether the traffic lights work, the street lights are working. It's all of those day-to-day issues that impact directly on your life. And so if you're a first-time voter, if you're a voter who's never voted before, and you think, well, politics doesn't affect you, politics affects every aspect of your life when you're dealing with local government.
John, do you think I can speak to one of the ladies sitting over here?
I'm sure you're more than
Lucky, can we move? Let me see if somebody's willing to come and speak to me. Can you just join us over here, please?
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, and you?
I'm good, thank you. What's your name?
Patricia van der Ras.
And are you a volunteer here today?
I'm a current visiting ward councillor. I'm on the list for being a PR councillor, and I'm the campaign manager for South Peninsula 1.
Now, John has just explained to us what exactly goes into a campaign of this nature.
Yes.
What is your job and role running up to election day?
Well, for the past couple of months, we've been going door to door, finding people who support and still believe in the vision for the Democratic Alliance. What we're doing this weekend is making sure that that support comes together, and our people that hasn't voted or hasn't registered yet, go out and go get registered. We've got our 5 callers here, one from each ward, that makes sure that the people that we have canvassed goes out to the registration booth. So far, we've got a total of 1,387.
So you are happy with the work that's been done here today?
Yes, they on the ball, they're doing what they're supposed to do, and our voters are going out.
Tell me something, I mean, you're obviously very busy in this area. Are there any issues in this area in Grassy Park itself?
Currently, we only have the problem with the IEC machines. That is lagging, that's not working, that's not running. But we are doing, at our stations, we've got the manual fill out, where we tell each and every possible voter to go out and fill out that form as well, which they are doing, and that we're going to scan in and send to the IEC at 5 o'clock.
Thank you so much for your time. John, if I can just have you back quickly. I know I've spoken to you about reception early on in Langa. What kind of reception have you received in other little suburbs thus far?
Yeah, it's been very good. I mean, we've just done a pamphlet distribution centre out in Bergfleet. I've been out to Wynberg as well. Really good reception. People are very enthusiastic. People are excited to vote. There are a few people who've raised issues along the way, and that's important that we're there to listen to those issues. But here in Grassy Park, I mean, the big issue here is crime. This is the worst police station in the country in terms of a police to population ratio. Now, it should be around 300. It sits around 1,500 per policeman per members of the population. So crime is a big issue here, and it's a huge concern for a lot of the people here who feel that they're not given a fair deal in terms of resourcing and police allocation, which leaves them vulnerable to crime, criminality, gangsterism and drugs. And that's the big message that's come out from voters here that I've interacted with.
I just want to touch on, you mentioned people who have issues. Obviously, you don't only speak to DA supporters. What kind of feedback do you get from people who are not DA supporters, Cape Townians who are not happy with delivery or whatever their issues are? What kind of feedback do you get from them?
Well, a lot of the queries are around infrastructure issues, around water, electricity, that sort of thing, and people are concerned at the burden that's on the infrastructure. There's a lot of issues, particularly around sleeping rough, homelessness, etc. The city's already put a huge amount of money and effort into providing shelters in the Kulenborg facilities, and they're being replicated across the city. But COVID's bitten deep, and unemployment is bitten deep. And any country sitting with a 44% unemployment rate, you're going to end up with a problem, a social problem. So there's been a lot of issues around vagrancy, homelessness, etc. And we're trying our best to deal with it. We need more resources from provincial and national government, and we need to be able to ensure that we're able to get as many people off the streets and into some form of shelter and hopefully some form of employment. And so there's going to have to, unfortunately, be a lot more spend on getting homeless people back onto the ladder in Cape Town and getting them back on their feet again.
John, thank you so much for your time again. Flo, there you have it. John just wrapping up for us exactly what is happening over here at this one war room that the DA has, and of course explaining to voters why it is so important for them to go and make their mark on the 1st of November. Flo?
Thank you very much. Abra, coming to us from Grassy Park in the Western Cape, speaking to DA leader there, John Steenhuisen, and of course the DA on the campaign trail, like many of the political parties are this afternoon. And in fact,